I'm so worried when I see questions and answers asked by mental health professionals in private practice in Australia about betteraccess. 9 times out of 10, I see questions that have such simple answers, and then I see people provide answers that are way off the beam. And this is how most people are finding out how to do betteraccess. Because unfortunately, when you enter private practice and you're given a provider number by Medicare, you're not given any training. There's no how-to, there's no manual, but there's damned harsh consequences if you're found non-compliant at audit. And that is scary. Financial consequences. And in the current day and age, did you know that if you're a private practice owner, it's not only on the clinician if they're non-compliant, it's on you too. So I'm going to ask you this. When you go to bed tonight, if you're thinking about betteraccess, are you thinking about, do I really know what I'm supposed to do in the new calendar year? Am I 100% certain about that curly question of how many sessions are left in the current referral? And oh my gosh, I'm only going to see this client one more time, but their referral's not finished. And what happens next year? Do I have to get a new referral? Does the calendar year refresh the referral? Short answer, no, it doesn't. All of these questions, so many questions. What do I do if the GP sends me a mental health care plan, not a referral? What do I do if I get a referral but no mental health care plan's been processed? How do I know? What do I do if the patient turns up for their 7th session and I haven't got a new referral from the GP? What do I do if I make a mistake? There are so many aspects to betteraccess. It is so wrong that we don't get trained. So, okay, I put together some training, and I put this together about a year ago. In fact, I put it together over a year ago, but deliberately waited until around November last year, maybe it was October last year, before I launched it, because I knew from experience that this was the time of year when people started freaking out about what to do with the new calendar year. Now, I sometimes ask myself, how did I end up being the betteraccess girl? That sounds dodgy, doesn't it? How did I end up being the one that people turn to? Well, I guess because when I saw all these well-intentioned inaccuracies being passed from one person to the next on Facebook and elsewhere, I started piping in and saying, actually, that's not right. Here's the correct answer. And why did I do that? Why did I feel that I could do that? What makes me such a smarty pants? Well, I was one of the original trainers for betteraccess. So back in about 2006, 2007, I always say 2006, maybe it was 2007, I was trained by what was then called Medicare Local. Medicare Locals don't exist anymore. They became all sorts of things, but they're now, in fact, they weren't even Medicare Locals then. I think they were divisions of general practice, and now they're PHNs. But back in 2006, I was sent to Melbourne along with a local GP, and the two of us were trained with a group of other people from around Australia to provide training in betteraccess. And we trained GPs, we trained psychiatrists, we trained psychologists, social workers, OTs, practice nurses, practice managers, mental health nurses, you name it, we trained them. And then we went about our business, just did our everyday thing, not thinking much more about it beyond that series of trainings that was offered back in 2006-07. It never occurred to me. Now, I've owned a group private practice for 10 years. I've been in practice for nearly 20 years myself. But my practice is 10 years old this year, and it's only the last few years that it became apparent to me that when my own clinicians were getting their own provider numbers, I didn't know until recently that they got no training. They got no information whatsoever. That sucks. So I started helping people out as best I could, and I started to realize I was going to spend my whole life in Facebook answering Medicare questions unless I did something that helped more people in one go. So I put together a training package, And I put together a package that was based on information from my original training kit. I can't believe I still had it. And also trawling through the MBS. Have you ever seen that document? It's ridiculously big. Trawling through the government's website, trawling through the Australian Psychological Society's website, trawling through every bit of information I could find and making sure my knowledge was up to date. And, in that process, I realized that I had some mistaken assumptions myself. So there were changes made to betteraccess in 2011 that me, having had my second child in 2011, had somehow missed the communication about those changes. And so when those changes took place, I wasn't aware of them. So even as a former trainer, being on maternity leave at that particular time, happening to miss that information, I was one of many clinicians who was making mistakes. And now I understand how easy it is to be an experienced clinician, thinking that you know what you're doing and not realizing that just because you've been doing it for however many years doesn't mean that you're accurate in what you're doing, doesn't mean you're compliant. So a lot of clinicians were caught up. There was a sweep recently. Clinicians were caught up in this sweep where Medicare, they're calling it not an audit. But a bunch of really experienced clinicians were required to pay back money to Medicare, even though that money didn't necessarily go into their bank accounts in the first place. It went into their clients' bank accounts. You still have to pay it back. If you're non-compliant, if you're found non-compliant at audit, you've got to pay that money back. And good luck getting it back from your clients. So experience won't save you. Thinking you know what you're doing won't save you. But you know what? The training that I've got, it's very simple. It's some videos that I put together. They were delivered live into Facebook when they're still there. They're still within that Facebook group, ready for you to access anytime. There's about 5 or 6 videos. They're roughly about an hour each. And do you know what else? And this is the thing that astounds me. 12 months later, this group, this betteraccess group that I created, 400 plus clinicians in there, active every day. Every single day, somebody posts something either helpful or asking a question. And you know what? For every time one person asks a question, there's going to be at least 20 that say to themselves, thank God they asked that question because I didn't understand that either. So I'm in that group every day answering questions. Now, going forward, I'm thinking about all of the changes that are happening with Medicare currently. So thinking about, we did a bonus video in the group where we talked about HAQA, which is the autism item numbers. And I got an expert in that area of practice because that's not my area of expertise of clinical practice. So I got Jackie Shell, who's a psychologist from Sydney, to talk with me through HAQA, the differences between HAQA and betteraccess. And it was such a great topic of discussion, and I really felt happy that Jackie was able to help out the people in that group to understand the differences if they're treating children with autism. Going forward, we've now got the new eating disorders treatment item numbers available, and that's already starting to cause a lot of confusion. Did you know that the betteraccess items, if you use the betteraccess items, they count towards the total available items available for the eating disorders program as well? I don't have my head fully around the eating disorders stuff, so my plan, this is why I'm encouraging you to jump in the group really soon, because my plan is to talk to somebody who is an expert in the eating disorders treatment area and have them talk with me about that new series of item numbers available for treatment of eating disorders. And that's the kind of thing that's going to keep happening within the betteraccess group as there are changes to Medicare. Because, of course, now that I know how subtly things can change as well as dramatically, I'm going to jump on board. I'm going to keep my eyes open. So I'm always keeping my eyes open for what changes are around. And if I don't understand the full implications from a clinical practice perspective, because it's not my area of expertise of practice, then you better bet your bottom dollar I'll find someone who is. So going forward, this is a very live and active group. So when you pay your registration fee for the training, I tell you what, it's a bit of a bargain. It's $97. And for $97, you get at least 5 hours of video training. You get a bunch of other written resources. You get access to templates that I've provided around how to write to GPs, how to write really brief case notes so that you stay compliant and you don't burn out in your business because you're trying to write too much information, both in your case notes and your GP letters. And I also provide you with some bonus interviews and some Q&A sessions. So there's lots and lots of information in there. So if you're struggling with betteraccess, if you've been struggling to find my training, struggle no more, my friend, because it is easy to find. If you can't find it, message me. I get messages every day from people wanting to find my training. I get people signing up every day for the training. So you are not alone if you have missed out, because you actually have it. It's still there. It's always available for you to sign up anytime you like. But you know what? With a new calendar year coming, I'd jump in now. Get your head clear so you know exactly where you stand as you transition into 2020. Take care for today. Bye.